Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Jennifer Pratt. Thank you for the lovely intro, Miss Lee. I am the founder and CEO of Seeding Square, which I will be telling you about shortly. So today we will be learning about why square foot gardening is so popular, the different approaches to square foot gardening. Yes, there is more than one. A few tips, tricks, and items to help improve on your gardening process, and then a little bit of backstory on how my square foot gardening tool came to be. So let's go over here. All right. So originally, my husband and I, we both grew up in a family. We were fortunate enough that we had gardens growing up. And so, we raided gardens at will, and it was awesome. And we loved it. And we wanted the same experience for our own kids. So we went and dug out a chunk of our backyard and threw out a bunch of seeds and watered them. And, we didn't know what was a weed and what was a vegetable. And we tried to pull what we could and did our best. And at the end of the day, we kind of ended up with a little more weeds than vegetables, and it wasn't quite what we had envisioned for our experience. So we decided, well, there's got to be a better way. So we went hunting. All right. So the tool that we were looking for didn't exist. We went into the store and we said, okay, we want something that's going to make planting easy and make the weeds not be such a problem and just, make the process easier. And there just really wasn't anything available. So we went to Pinterest, as a lot of us do, and we found two things that kind of caught our eye. So we found this giant pegboard that you put in the soil and you jump on it and you lift it up, and then it leaves all these impressions in the soil for where you can put your seeds. And we're like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. And then the second thing we found was square foot gardening. So looking more into square foot gardening, we got really very excited about it. So a little bit of background, the square foot gardening method was created by Mel Bartholomew. He's a construction engineer, and he created it in the 80s. And it's all about growing more food in less space. So it's high density vegetable gardening. And the basic gist is of traditional square foot gardening is that you need a raised bed and you fill it with a certain soil compilation, and then you have a grid in square foot increments over top of it. So Mel's soil recipe is 1/3 compost, and that gives you all your nutrients, 1/3 coarse vermiculite or perlite, and that is for optimum water drainage and retention, and then peat moss or coconut coir or pit moss will also work, and that keeps the soil light and it helps retain the water as well. So if you are wanting more information on the soil, the square foot gardening, I just have to get my angle right here. It's not going to do it for me. Oh, there we go. The square foot gardening book, seen in the picture here, is available. I will be sharing links of all the kind of products that I'm going to talk about in the process. So if you're interested in getting any of those, I'll share the links at the end so you can get them then. Okay, so highly recommend Mel's book. He's got everything you could possibly want to know about square foot gardening, because this 20 minutes certainly isn't going to cover it all. So, all right, so now the soil mixture is in the book. I also want to make a comment that we will be doing a soil webinar in July, so make sure you check that out too. Okay, so square foot gardening, you want your soil, your box, and your grid. Now, you generally, your square foot boxes are going to be 3 by 3 feet or 4 by 4 feet. And the reason for that is that you want to be able to reach in and work with all the plants in your garden. So if your box is too big, you can't get at the plants that are in the center, and that's no good for anyone. So that's kind of those optimum spaces. 3 by 3 or 4 by 4 are both very good. And so each square foot of space houses one type of plant at a row. So each of those square feet is kind of like its own miniature garden. And then the number of seeds or seedlings that you put into each square foot is aimed for high density vegetable gardening. So the smaller the plant, the more of them you have per square foot. As the plant maturity level gets bigger, like, say broccoli, for example, you would only have one plant per square foot. All right, so now square foot gardening, why it is so loved by gardeners around the world. So as I mentioned, this is high density vegetable gardening. So you get a lot of food in a little space. Now we're talking 2 to 5 times the yield as compared to conventional row gardening. So you really get a big bang for your buck. Now, because your plants are in there and they're also nice and tight and plant for high density, it really minimizes the weeds. So you get very few weeds that come in. which makes for a nice, easy caring of your garden. And then for gardening in small spaces, like I said, it's great because you're getting a lot out of a small space. So another perk to square foot gardening is that less water is required. Now, and that's partly because of the soil mixture that Mel has come up with. And then it is also partly because as your plants get a little bigger, the canopy of the plants shades the soil, and then you don't get all the water evaporation that you might otherwise. So you use less water. So all of this ends up creating a very low maintenance a low maintenance garden for you, because you're not having all these weeds to deal with, and you're not having to water as frequently. You will also find that you have healthier plants, and this is because they're not competing with all the other weeds for the nutrients that are in the soil. So you do get happier, healthier plants. If you are wanting to get kids into gardening, which I really encourage, this is great because it's like a kid-sized garden. They don't feel overwhelmed in this giant garden. It's just a small garden that they can be hands-on and they can be in there doing their thing. It is also really good for seniors. Same thing, it's a manageable size. And then it also makes succession gardening really easy to incorporate into your process. Now, succession gardening is where you plant it, you grow it, you harvest it, and you replant it right away. So some things like radishes, for example, they're quick to grow. You put them in, you water them, the things are grown and ready to be harvested in no time. They're really quick. Versus maybe in the square foot beside, you might have celery, which takes, a substantially longer time to come to maturation. So that radish square foot of space, maybe you might replant it 2 or 3 times throughout the season. So it really lets you get that super high yield, a lot of food out of a little space. And just another point here, as you are doing this, if you're doing those kind of over and over succession gardening, you'll want to rejuvenate your soil. And I don't actually have my bottle anymore because it's so good. I may have used it all up, but I do want to throw out a comment to Lee's product, Nurture Growth Biofertilizer. So it's an organic microbial fertilizer that is made from upcycled food waste rather, and is powered by beneficial microorganisms as safe for Mother Earth, humans, and animals. So in terms of a fertilizer that you're going to put into your garden, this one is primo, and I highly encourage it. Okay, so now here is another square foot gardening option. So the grids traditionally are sticks or strings or whatever you want to make your grids out of. Now this thing is a watering process that is your grid all in one. So you just hook your hose up to it, turn it on, and voila, your garden gets watered for you. So there goes your maintenance of your garden goes right down. And so just a little heads up, I talked to the gentleman that runs this particular business a couple months ago. He sent me a sample. It looks really cool. So his square feet are actually 11 inches apart, but semantics, just splitting hairs. This is square foot gardening, and this thing looks really neat. I'm super excited to put in my garden. It also comes in multiple sizes. So if you have different sized garden boxes, you can apply this to it. Okay, so back to the story of Jen and Carl in our original garden here. So unfortunately for us, the box and the grid didn't work because, as you can see in this garden here, we had rocks and it was oddly shaped and it just wasn't set up to have the grid. So we really loved all the benefits of square foot gardening, but we didn't have the boxes. So we had to get creative. And that's where that giant pegboard came into play that we had seen on Pinterest. We figured, okay, well, if we could take all the spacing techniques of square foot gardening, because, the more plants you have, or the bigger the plant, the more space it needs, and smaller plants, you can get more plants into a smaller space. So we wanted to take all the different spacing techniques of square foot gardening and incorporate them into our own little templates that we could then use in our garden. So that is what we did, and voila. Here you go. So here is some of our first prototypes that we made of this thing. So we have our pegs in the square feet, and they worked phenomenally. So behind me here, this picture that you see is the very first garden planted with our seeding square templates. And as you can see, it was pretty darn impressive. So we had friends and families and neighbors, and kind of everyone's going, oh, what did you do? How did you do that? which was kind of fun. So we ended up lending them out like library books. And you know, people out there planting their gardens, which is always awesome. And then at the end of the day, my husband and I were pulling all these fresh vegetables out. We're patting ourselves on the back, and my husband turns to me and says, "Oh, Jen, you know, I'm really sorry. I see that you were really on the weeding this year, and I was not." And then I kind of turned to him and I'm like, "Oh, actually, I was going to say the same thing to you because I thought you did the weeding. I certainly didn't." So they're right there. Proof is in the pudding that square foot gardening, you get less weeds. So that was great. I mean, not to say that we didn't. There was a few weeds that we pulled here and there, but there was no major weeding sessions that had to go on. So we figured like, hey, you know, we really have something here that can help people grow their food, and they don't have to be experts and they don't have to have a big garden. We got something cool, but it's so bulky. This isn't something that we would be able to manufacture and sell and, you know, offer to the world. So we had an aha moment. Actually, we had a few aha moments. So let me tell you about the honing that we did. So we said, okay, all these pegs, let's get rid of the pegs and we'll do holes, and you can poke holes through the pegs in them. So we had all these templates. So we went to stack and we went to put them together, and we went, oh, look, they don't overlap. Oh, we could color code them and put them all onto one. And that was really exciting. And then there's a little wand there on the bottom of the square. It's a dibber, and it has depth measurements on it. So you can see how deep, here, I've got one here, how deep your seeds are. And that gives you a uniform depth, and that increases your germination rate. And then you also have a spoon on the end of your wand here, and that helps you get your seeds out of the package and into the hole without a lot of issue. And there's a little funnel that clips onto the back of your seeding square, and same thing, that helps you get the seeds to their homes. So now, if you are gardening with kids or you are gardening with seniors, these are very helpful little tools, because you really want your seeds to be going where you intend them to go. So that was one thing here. And then let's see here, what else do we have here? Oh, the sidewalls. Let me tell you about the sidewalls. Okay, so we didn't have the grids, couldn't do the grids. We had to create something, a workaround. So we have put the sidewalls on the seeding square, and right here like this. And what you do is when you press them into the soil, they leave a square foot impression behind, as you can see in the picture. So it lets you line up and stamp out each press your square. So now if you want to do rows, you can stamp out the same type of vegetable over and over, and it creates rows for you. Or you can do the patchwork quilt look of square foot gardening and just do each square foot as its own different thing and kind of have a patchwork quilt look. So it really is more versatile. You have the option and an ability to do it for large gardens, small garden boxes, you know, whatever so suits. So let's see what else here. Oh, and then if you want to do large plants, you stamp out, say, 4 square feet of space, and then you can put your seed or your seedling in the center of there. And seeding square is for spacing out seeds and seedlings as well. You just poke the hole, and then you go back and you can plant your seedling where you've poked the hole. So a nice little marker there. And then also we found, like, just talking to other people that had done square foot gardening, often the grids can be a bit of a source of frustration because they can wear quickly, and maybe they, you know, some people don't appreciate the aesthetic look of them. They like kind of just that nice open garden look. So, you know, just a different way of doing it. So let's see what's next here. Okay, so we had our product and we went on a funding hunt. So we did a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo campaign. We had a really amazing group of friends and family that, you know, supported us and gave us some loans to get it going. And a part of the process was, as I mentioned, I used to be a school teacher. I was trying to raise funds not only to be able to bring our product to market, but I was also wanting to get squares into schools. So this picture here is of me with that big pile of seeding squares that we raised funds for, and that was going out to all the schools that had applied for them in our process. So that was really exciting. And then even on our funding hunt, I went to Dragon's Den. I don't know how many of you have watched Dragon's Den or heard of it, but so I ventured on Dragon's Den. I had 2 offers. I got my handshake. The funding didn't end up coming through, as tends to be the case for a lot of folks, but it was an amazing experience nonetheless. And, you know, we ended up doing it without them. And to date, over 20 tons of fresh vegetables have been grown in seeding square planted gardens. So, wow, like how amazing is that? And so as of this year, you will now be able to find seeding square in Canadian Tire, which which was really exciting. And of course, I don't want to forget to mention Lee Valley Tools because they have been selling Seating Square for years. So it's also on the website, Amazon, the Grommet, Uncommon Goods. There's lots of places that carry Seating Square, but these are my two big brick and mortar places that carry it currently. All right, and I want to share this quick little story about Mel. So Mel Bartholomew, he was the father of square foot gardening, and so in inventing this product, I was kind of worried that I was going to be stepping on toes, and so I had been trying to reach out to him, and I wasn't getting any luck there. And I was at the grocery store. Ironically, I was growing or buying vegetables at the time. It was winter. I didn't have a garden going, and my phone rings. And I don't know if you've ever heard Mel Bartholomew talk, but if you have, he's got like this deep, gravelly voice. And so I answered my phone, and I knew immediately I had Mel Bartholomew on the phone. It was like a rock star had called me. It was very cool. So I put down my buggy and I walked out that door because I had to pay attention and really focus on this conversation. And so it turns out Mel loved Seating Square. He wanted to do like a collaboration thing where it was like we were going to put his face on our packaging and have it as an official square foot gardening product of Mel Bartholomew. And so it was just this most amazing feeling to have this approval of Mel's, and it was unfortunate Mel did pass before that was able to come to fruition, but like I said, it was really amazing to have that approval from Mel. So just wanted to share that story. And so here we are at the end of the webinar, and just a couple of products that I had mentioned if you're wanting to get them. I am an affiliate link on Amazon, so anything you buy, I do get a small commission, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. So here's the link for Seating Square, the link for the Seating Square book, now that grid watering system I mentioned. And then here is the picture of the bottle of the fertilizer that Lee is, that's her baby, that I wanted to show, but I didn't show because I used it all. I don't have any more. And then also, often you should test your soil too to make sure that you're on point with all your nutrients levels. So this is a testing kit that I encourage and use myself. And then also, for Seating Square, with the Seating Square, it comes with the planting guide and instructions. However, people have since always kind of reached out to me and said, oh, they want the herb planting guide and a companion planting guide. So I've gone and created those as well. They don't come with Seating Square, but if you do want that package of PDFs, you can get that at seatingsquare.com. My website is going to be changing over to a different platform soon, so I don't have the exact link to the PDFs. Just go onto the website and you'll be able to find it easily enough. And let's see, one more. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining us today.